You know how sometimes a job description feels like it's missing something? It lists the tasks, sure, but what does the job really demand from your brain? Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the hidden cognitive demands of work and look at a really smart framework for matching the right person to the right role. Let's get into it. Right. Job descriptions rarely capture the whole story. So what is the real mental ask? Is it the laser focus to work alone for hours on end? The mental gymnastics of juggling constant interruptions? Or maybe it's the nerve to make a split-second high-stakes decision. This is all about the cognitive load. You know, the invisible work that we're doing all day long. Okay, so to figure that out, we use this brilliant two-sided approach. On one side, you've got the job's demands. This is a clear-eyed look at what the role itself requires, often called a job demands analysis, or JDA. And on the other side, we look at a person's abilities, which is a functional abilities evaluation, or FAE. The whole goal? It's simple, really. Find that perfect fit between the two. So here's our game plan for this explainer. First, we'll dive into the demands of self-management. Then we'll get into the cognitive side of working with other people. After that, we'll cover some of those foundational knowledge skills. And finally, we'll tie it all together to see why this whole thing is such a big deal. All right, first up, self-management. This is all about the internal skills you need to bring to the table to get your work done, especially when you're working by yourself or feeling the pressure. So let's start with self-supervision. This isn't just about being trustworthy. It's a specific, measurable demand. How much do you need to rely on your own judgment versus having a supervisor tell you what to do next? And here's how they actually rate it. Take a look. For the job demand, a rating of 1 means the job is totally supervised. Someone's always there to guide you. A 4 means you're almost entirely on your own. Now look at the worker ability side. A person rated a 1 really needs that direction, while a 4 just thrives when they're left to their own devices. See, it's all about lining up the job's need with the person's ability. Okay, next is a big one that I think a lot of us can relate to, deadline pressure. This measures how much a job forces you to race against the clock, either because of tight turnarounds or just a sheer volume of work that means you have to move fast. And you can see the whole spectrum here. A job rated 1 is completely self-paced, no crazy time constraints. But at the other end, a 4 means the work is pretty much always under high pressure. The evaluation then looks at a person's ability to tolerate that pressure. Do they crumble or do they thrive? We've covered working solo. But what about the cognitive demands of working with other people? Because let's be honest, that can be just as tough, if not tougher. Now, this isn't just about being in the same room with coworkers. Working cooperatively is about the active skills needed for great collaboration. We're talking real teamwork, clear communication, and even a bit of diplomacy. It's really the engine that makes any team successful. The scale here makes a lot of sense. A level 1 job, maybe like a lone forest ranger, needs almost zero cooperation. But a level 4 job, think of that ER doctor again, requires constant, seamless cooperation to succeed. Then, a person's ability is rated on a scale from works best alone to being a natural collaborator. Okay, now we're getting into some really challenging territory, exposure to emotional situations. The source material uses a really powerful example, an ambulance attendant at a traumatic accident. This demand is all about measuring how often a job requires you to handle these incredibly charged, emotionally stressful moments. And the key factor here is frequency. A level 1 job has basically no expected exposure. Level 2 is pretty infrequent, maybe once a month. But by the time you get to level 4, you could be facing these situations every single day. The evaluation then has to measure a person's capacity to handle that without it hurting their performance. So this is different from the last one. This isn't about distress, it's about aggression. Exposure to confrontational situations measures how often you have to deal with people who are being hostile, disruptive, or even threatening. Think about retail workers, security guards, or folks in a call center. Now, you have to pay really close attention to the details here because they are crucial. A level 2 rating is for occasional exposure, but, and this is the important part, assistance is right there. A level 3 is for that same occasional exposure, except this time you're on your own. Level 4 is frequent exposure, no matter what. That little detail about having backup completely changes the cognitive demand of the situation. All right, our final category of demands is knowledge. You can think of these as the cognitive building blocks that pretty much everything else rests on, from basic skills to the incredible weight of responsibility. First up, reading literacy. This sounds pretty basic, but the demand can be wildly different from job to job. Is the work just about recognizing names on a shipping label, or is it about understanding a complex technical manual to repair a jet engine? And the scale totally reflects that difference. A job at level 2 just needs you to recognize single words, but at level 4, you have to have advanced literacy to get through dense reports or manuals. The FAE then simply measures a person's comprehension level against that same scale. Now for one of the most serious demands of all, responsibility and accountability. This isn't about hitting your project deadlines. It's about the real-world consequences if you make a mistake. What's the potential safety risk from a small error in judgment or a momentary lapse in attention? This quote really just says it all, doesn't it? This is the highest level of this demand. We are talking about safety-sensitive jobs, surgeons, airline pilots, nuclear technicians, where one tiny mistake isn't just an oops, it could be absolutely catastrophic. So what defines the levels here is the severity of the outcome. At level 1, a mistake is insignificant. At level 2, it's an inconvenience. But by level 4, it could be life-threatening. The evaluation then has to assess a person's judgment to see if they're truly suited for these incredibly high-stakes roles. So we've broken down all these different demands, but why does this super detailed analysis even matter? Let's zoom out for a second and look at the big picture, because this systematic approach is actually really powerful. It matters for so many reasons. For one, it makes hiring fairer, replacing gut feelings with objective data. It's a huge help for creating workplace accommodations because it pinpoints exactly what support an employee needs to thrive. For career planning, it helps people find roles that genuinely align with their cognitive strengths. And maybe most importantly, it helps create safer work environments by ensuring that people in those critical, safety-sensitive jobs have the proven ability to handle that immense responsibility. It's about putting the right person in the right job, which is better for everyone. And that leaves us with one final question to chew on. In a future where automation is handling more and more routine tasks and jobs are constantly changing, could understanding our own cognitive fit, how our brain works best, actually become our most valuable career skill? Something to think about. Thanks for tuning in.